questions, certainly feel free to do it at that time, and we'll set aside some time at the end if you guys have any questions too. The easiest way is to do it through chat because it's hard to moderate a bunch of different people talking at the same time, so that's certainly the easiest way to go. So, I want to welcome you all to my bedroom. You don't know how long I've waited to be able to say that. Just kidding. Sorry, Beth. But this is where we are today because of the circumstances that we're under. But I'm excited to be able to bring you this information, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. So you'll be able to tell with some of these starting graphics that I've had a little bit of time on my hands to learn some new skills, but it is all good. And this is an opportunity for us to be together in a kind of a private way and learn some stuff. So a little bit about me. I've been a chiropractor for about 25 years. I've been a diabetic for 32 years now. And, I'm going to talk a little bit about diabetes and epilepsy as it relates to this story, but, don't worry, that's not all we're going to get into. And really the reason for this is, too many Americans are not living the lives that we were designed to live because of the choices that they've made, whether it be, diet, exercise, whatever. And in some cases, people have caused irreparable damage. But, I like to think that there's still time. There's still time for any of us to make some changes. It's just a matter of kind of getting some tools to make those changes. And, many people in this country have type 2 diabetes, heart disease, loss of enjoyment of life. And I want to teach you a solution to kind of move past that. Something that's pretty simple to follow once you just get the basics. So we're going to go over that information. We're going to go over what the ketogenic diet is, some of the tools and some of the tech with the ketogenic diet. And then at the end, we're going to talk about our challenges coming up on May 4th. So just, again, I started off with a little bit of background about myself. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, it was pretty much a shock. I was healthy, so it was one of those out of the blue situations. I do have to say that early on, I was very careful, and then I wasn't so careful. And then I went to chiropractic college and certainly learned a ton. And thankfully they teach us a lot about nutrition and lifestyle and health. But I still had a hard time keeping my blood sugar in the low 7s. It took a lot of work, eating kind of the standard, even though I felt like I was eating pretty good, but eating a standard American diet, did make it tough. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I kind of looked into, I watched the movie, The Magic Pill, great movie. And at that point, I started to look into the keto diet. I basically jumped right in. And within, so you have your A1C done every 90 days as diabetic, which is the A1C is a kind of a 90-day snapshot of what your blood sugar is. And so within a 6-month period, so basically 2 tests, I was able to go from those, mid to low 7s to a 5.8, which is basically the high end of what a normal would be. So for any type 2 diabetics out there, I say this, from my experience, everybody's different, but, with type 2 diabetes, you can basically get rid of it with this diet. So if you, during this quarantine times, if you guys have not made a TikTok, then you certainly have not been living your best lives. Here's a little view of my family here. Obviously, Katie's been doing some of this. Jonna was not too excited, and it all happened because of this woman, Beth. It was like her goal to get through one of these TikToks before it was all over and we were back to normal. And so we certainly were able to accomplish that. So I want to talk a little bit about the ketogenic diet now. And so just as a definition, it's a noun, and basically it's a very low, extremely low carbohydrate diet that promotes the metabolism of fat into ketone bodies. So instead of using, glucose, glycogen, carbs for our energy, your body starts to use these ketone bodies. And so this is what a ketone body looks like. And so what does ketosis mean? And basically it's a term that refers to the breakdown of fat into usable energy. And that usable energy is in the form of ketones. So that Fat is either derived from the food that we eat, so that would be nutritional ketosis, so if you eat a lot of fatty foods, or actually when we start to burn the fat in our body, we can actually start to, which is what we like to do, right? We can use that fat, those fat stores in our body, to give us energy as well. And those ketones are like an alternative energy source for our body and our brain. So here's an interesting thing about our brain. Your brain only makes up about 2% of your overall weight, yet it consumes about 25% of the energy out there, the calories, the whatever energy it can get in the body. So your body's very smart. And so if you start to deprive your brain of its first go-to, which is, glucose, glycogen, glucose, are carbs, it's going to quickly switch over to ketones, and it's a seamless thing, which is amazing. So this is why when it's your brain being so smart, and this is an interesting thing that I found, and when I knew that this was kind of a big deal, is anybody, whether you're type 1, whether you're diabetic or you have hypoglycemia, or just in general, if you don't eat for a while, you start to feel a little bit lightheaded. And if my blood sugar was low, so say below 60, I would start to feel a little bit funky. When I went over to keto, I never had those symptoms. It can be good and bad. Thankfully I have a continuous glucose monitor that tells me when my blood sugar is low, but my brain was able to get that energy source without the glucose. And so even if my blood sugar was low, so there was actually an interesting study done, I want to say somewhere around World War II, because they had some conscientious objectors, and these are studies that would never be allowed today. But basically what they did is they took a group of people that were mildly obese and they fasted them. And so basically all they gave them was water and electrolytes, absolutely no food. And so what they found was that their glucose in their insulin dropped dramatically, but then it got to this point where it leveled off at 3 millimolars. So there's again, your intelligent body, your intelligent brain, if you're not taking these things in, there's a process called gluconeogenesis, which happens in the liver, and your body will actually start to produce some of this to kind of keep you at a baseline. Well, what they did, and which is, I still can't believe they were able to do this, is they then injected these people with insulin. So a low blood sugar for anybody would be anything below 60. They brought these people down to 1, which would kill most people. I know my blood sugar's been at 20 before, and I did not feel good. So they brought these people down to 1 millimolar, and they had no negative neurologic side effects. So again, your brain is pretty darn intelligent, and it's going to take what it can get. So this is something that has come into vogue recently, mostly because of LeBron James and Kim Kardashian and Halle Berry. They really kind of started to tout this diet, and hey, if that's where it started, it's all good. But it kind of picked up some traction from there. But this is a diet that's been around for many years. It's actually been used for over 100 years in a medical setting, and there's evidence as far back as 500 years ago that it was used to treat epilepsy, seizures, and things like that. And if you think about it, so there's a couple things that will put people into a state of ketosis. There's fasting, and there's eating a ketogenic diet, eating a lot of fat and very low carbs. And if you think about it, probably our Paleolithic ancestors were of that ilk. They probably weren't eating that often. They were probably fasting regularly. And, when they did eat, it was probably protein and fats. So again, on quarantine, if you haven't made a TikTok and you haven't seen Tiger King, then I don't know what you people have been doing. So this is one of Joe Exotic's husbands. And I thought he looked kind of like a Neanderthal. Sorry, dude. So I want to talk a little bit about epilepsy. And like I said, back in the 20s, they found that if they starved these epileptics, that they had dramatic reduction in their seizures overall. Now, they knew that wasn't a viable type of treatment for people long term. So what they ended up doing was they came up with this fast mimicking diet. And that's where the ketogenic diet in its current form was born. They were able to mimic that fasted states. fasted state. And this was the number one source of treatment, the number one course of treatment that doctors used up until the 50s. So guess what happened in the 50s? Pharmaceutical companies came up with ways to do it that were much easier. You know, doctors said, hey, this is tough. You know, making people eat a certain way is tough. You know, it's so much easier to give them a pill, you know, and it pretty much stayed that way and went away until kind of the early 90s. So, you know, this guy may or may not look familiar. This is Jim Abrams. He's the producer, director of some classics like Airplane, the Naked Gun series, Police Squad, Hot Shots. But he has a son named Charlie. And when he was born, he had a severe, basically drug-resistant form of epilepsy. He would have seizures for multiple days at a time. And as I was doing this research, I came across this video. So if you don't, you know, if you bear with me here a second, I think this is very telling and very important to see here.
Some knowledge that this diet was probably working back at Johns Hopkins, and yet you dissuaded the Abrams.
The Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins is where these were being done.
Well, because I don't think we had exhausted all of the medical approaches yet. There were actually still other medications that we hadn't tried yet.
Dr. Freeman tells us that 50 to 70% of the patients that come through his doors and get put on the diet have success. Can you think of any drugs in these hard cases that have 50 to 70% success rates?
Probably not anything that comes up to that level.
So why are modern doctors
kicker.
ignoring this diet? Charlie's own doctor has a surprising answer.
There's no big drug company behind a ketogenic diet, and there probably can never be unless somebody starts marketing sausage and eggs with cream sauce on it as a drug.
You're saying that in a sense, one of the reasons that the ketogenic diet is not popular at this point is because there's not a big drug company behind it selling it to the doctors.
I think that's probably true. I hate to say that, but I think that's probably true.
Now, I wonder whether he lost his license after that. I'm sure the AMA doesn't like it when things come out like that. But you know, unfortunately, that's a case with most things. If you think about the diseases that are killing Americans, a lot of these have their root in our lifestyle, if not all of them. Yes, there's the outliers, but you know, this is important stuff here. So I'm gonna have to. Sorry, this happened every time, and I don't know how to get away from it. But I'm gonna get into the next screen here. So you're saying, hey, I don't have epilepsy, I don't have diabetes. The thing about this diet is, while it is amazing for those, you know, particular problems, you know, if we think about the top killers of Americans, so you know, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, you know, I know, you know, accidents is on there, people just being stupid, whatever. But really it's insulin resistance, it's high blood pressure, it's high blood sugar, it's abdominal fat, it's obesity, it's chronic inflammation. You know, it's all these things caused by this, you know, the SAD diet, the standard American diet, you know, neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's. You know, half of all Americans, so research shows that half of all Americans have prediabetes or some other chronic illness, and 1 in 5 deaths are related to obesity. So this is really why it's kind of an important thing for all of us. And so this is Joe Marcola, medical doctor. He's also a great person to follow if you want to get some good, helpful information here. But he put out that 40% of adults are obese. And this isn't just like a little bit overweight, but obese. 18% of teens are obese, 14% of children, and 8% of the population are obese. You know, and you know, obviously we can't get away from what's going on right now with COVID-19 and I guess I could say with all diseases. You know, I appreciate the fact that they're saying, hey, if you're healthy, you get outside, take some vitamin D, you do these things, you know, your likelihood of catching the disease is much lower. And so taking care of yourself is the key to combating these things, having a healthy immune system, doing the right things, moving the right way, eating the right stuff. But for a lot of us, you know, it's not easy to make changes, especially if they're dramatic. And hopefully once you learn a little bit more about keto, you'll understand that it's not quite so dramatic. You're not starving yourself. But a lot of times it comes down to our why. And so some people just want to, you know, look good in the bathing suit, want to look good at the beach if we can go to the beach this summer at all. I have to say that I can be a little bit vain. You know, I get out of the shower, walk by the mirror. I like the changes that I've seen. You know, I love sports. I play soccer. I'm in an over 50 soccer league, and you know, I'm a good soccer player. I may not be the best, you know, the most skilled player out there, but you know, I'm one of the fittest 52-year-olds out there. So that definitely gives me, you know, it's kind of the great equalizer. But when I talk about my whys for doing anything, and so when I really got hardcore about taking care of myself, it was because of my family. And that was my why. I wanted, as my kids were growing up, I wanted to be able to get down on the floor with them. I wanted to go ride bikes with them. I wanted to go run with them, throw the ball, play soccer, whatever. And that was my driving force for what I did. And you know, sometimes sacrifices, you know, to get to where I wanted to be. And I've accomplished that. So you look at my family here, and Jonna in the middle, she's my youngest. She's now 20. She's going to be 21 in a couple months here. And so I basically accomplished that goal. So now moving on to goal number 2, you know, I hope to have grandchildren someday. So my goal is whether we're working towards that or not, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm able to play with my grandchildren. You know, it's this pain versus pleasure where, you know, we think about it, we're either moving towards pleasure or away from pain. Whatever it is that motivates you, you know, looking towards that is looking towards the future. And really the best way to predict the future is to create it. You know, Abraham Lincoln, very wise statement. So the best way to make sure that you're able to do whatever you want to do later on is to create that now. So I want to get into a little bit of information about the keto diet here. So what's a typical diet do for you? You know, everybody's heard that the typical diet leads to a 5-pound weight gain. All right. And, you know, the thing is, most of them are hard to stay on. Most of them, you know, you might be buying a lot of products, and they might be expensive. They don't fit into your lifestyle. They don't fit into getting together with your friends. The nice thing about the ketogenic diet is you will lose weight. I guarantee you will have changes in your body morphology. It's not all about the numbers, but you'll have changes in your body morphology, and you'll hit a baseline. And I know this for a fact because over the last few months, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. I ate a ton at Thanksgiving. I ate a lot at Christmas. You know, New Year's, we always have a New Year's party, probably, you know, drank a little bit more. My weight never budged. You know, I always went back. I might have had a day of fasting, you know, afterwards, but my weight never, you know, went back. And there's a lot of different ways to lose weight. There's actually, I believe, one gentleman here on the call today who lost 17 pounds after having the flu. Now, that's kind of a shitty way to lose weight, but listen to this. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but have you ever gotten off of the flu where you ate nothing, you slept, and you came out on the other side, you lost, you know, 5 or 6 pounds, you actually felt pretty good. You know, sometimes fasting is a positive thing, whether it's through ketosis or actually fasting. And we're not going to talk a lot about fasting tonight because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But, you know, once we get into the 30-day challenge, we'll definitely go through some of that. So I want to look at, you know, kind of what brought us to where we are today, and that is the standard American diet. So if we look at this food pyramid, so I don't know if you remember the pyramid, but it had all these carbs at the bottom and then vegetables and protein, a little bit of fat at the top. And so the standard American diet, so the SAD diet, was 50% carbs, 34% fat, and 16% protein. And the thing was, they didn't care where you got your fats or your carbs or your proteins from. A lot of this was crap, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of this was spurred by research. You know, so the food pyramid came out in the early 90s. There was actually research done by a Harvard medical doctor, and he basically in the 60s, I believe, and the crux of his story was that sugar's not a problem, carbs aren't a problem, it's fat, it's cholesterol, and that's the problem. Well, years later, come to find out that study was actually funded by the sugar industry. So they debunked the whole thing. The whole thing was complete garbage. And so the unfortunate thing about that is that that paper and the doctors that followed that led to millions of people dying. You know, most MDs will say that cholesterol is the problem, but cholesterol is one of the most important things in our body. All of our cells are made up of cholesterol. You know, we eat cholesterol, our body makes cholesterol. It's very important. Cholesterol in and of itself is not a problem. Cholesterol mixed with inflammation and lots of insulin, a lot of glucose running around your system, that's a problem. You know, so in a typical situation like this, in say a typical 2,000 calorie diet, you might get 1,000 calories from carbs, 680 from fat, and 320 from protein. And that's what you end up looking like, unfortunately. And so what about the paleo diet? So paleo diet is great in that they started to add some good, whole, healthy foods. So you're eating, you know, healthy meats, healthy fats, healthy, you know, roughage, you know, shoots, you know, sweet potatoes, and all kind of whole, healthy food, but in a different kind of pyramid, a different format than what keto does. So basically you would get 40% of your carbs. So it's a carb heavy type of diet, 35% from fats and 25% from calories. So again, what that would look like for calories is 500 calories from carbs, 320 from protein, and 680 from fat. And you may wonder why there's 34% fat, yet 680 calories, and I'm not going to go into that tonight, but you know, we'll definitely go over all those calculations at a later date. And then enter the ketogenic diet. So here's the thing, 75% of all of our calories we're going to get from fat. We're going to get 25, my sister corrected this on me and I didn't correct it on here, 25% from, or no, I guess it's, yeah, 25% from protein and 5% from carbs. So basically what that looks like is 15%, 1,500 calories you're getting from your fat sources, and you're getting only 100 calories from carbs and about 400 calories from protein. And so it's usually about 20 to 30 grams of carbs a day, which if you look at a label of anything, you'll see that that seems a bit extreme. But you know, hey, that's what I look like on keto. So the thing is, I will say this, keto is not for everybody. The good thing is there's a few different versions of keto that you might be able to work into what your goals are, because it might not just be about losing weight. You may just want to maintain, you may love going to the gym a lot. So the standard keto diet is that 75-25 breakdown, okay? Now, just like, so you wouldn't go to the gym and do bench press every day. You know, you would hit a plateau. And so the way that we break through plateaus is through muscle confusion, kind of changing things up a little bit. So with the cyclical keto, and people will do this sometimes for just a period of time, or this will be the way they approach keto, in that, you know, 2 days out of the week, so 2 days out of the 7, they'll eat, you know, maybe 50 to 150 grams of carbs a day, you know, instead of just that 25 to 30 grams. And you're reducing your fats and proteins, so you're keeping your calories in check. There's also the targeted keto, which is great for, you know, anybody that loves CrossFit, Orange Theory, any high intensity interval training. And the good thing about this is basically what you're doing is about 30 minutes before you work out, you're going to eat 20 to 50 grams of carbs. And during that workout, that's where your body's going to go first. It's going to go through and burn those carbs first. So when you come out on the other side, you're still going to be in a state of ketosis because you haven't bumped out of that based on the carbs. Now, this is something that I learned just from doing this research, is there's the high protein ketogenic diet, which, as the name implies, is a higher in protein. So this is for elite athletes. I don't know if you ever heard about the Race Across America, but basically it's a bike race. Sometimes it takes these guys 8, 9, 10 days to ride a bike across the United States, which is pretty remarkable. All these, you know, there's no way that people can sustain that level of activity for that long of time on carbs. There's just no way you'd be bonking every 10 minutes. So, you know, fats and protein is where they get it from. So let's talk a little bit about how we kind of get to the point where we start. So as a starting point, we have to know what our needs are. So there's a couple ways of figuring that out. There's a calculation, the Harris-Benedict calculation, that's very popular. We use the InBody because it's a much more accurate assessment for us. It gives us not only your basal metabolic rate, but also your body fat percentage, which is something that we really use in our office when we're checking weight loss or weight gain, because again, as you know, muscle weighs more than fat. So your weight may be the same, but your body morphology may be completely different. And so once we have that BMR, we need to add some substance. So your BMR is basically the number of calories you need. And I'm going to go through this quickly. I know it's just a lot of numbers. It's a lot of information. So basically your BMR is the amount of calories that you need to eat just to kind of maintain if you do absolutely nothing and basically you sit at a desk all day. But there's multipliers to that. So we take your BMR, say it's 2,000, and we add either 1.2 if you do nothing, 1.3. I'd say I'm probably the 1.725. If any of you have ever met Dr. Ryan, he's probably in the 1.9 modifier there, because he's a bit of an animal when it comes to working out. And so what that would look like in the 2,000 calorie diet when we're doing the 75, again 25-5 rule, is you'd get 1,500 calories from fat, 400 calories from protein, and 100 calories from carbs. Okay, so if we want to lose, all we do with that BMR, that 2,000, is we multiply that by 15%, and so that creates a deficit. So that as we're going through this, we're making sure we're tracking our stuff with some of our tech. Okay, so these all have free options. I think My Macros, the first one that came up there, Dr. Ryan uses that one. It might be $1 or $2 a month. I use my Fitness Pal. I do pay for the paid version because it gives me a few more options, and Chronometer is another one. So I have found that when I counsel people on diet, that if all I have them do is track what they're eating, they do a hell of a lot better. So especially when you're eating the keto diet, because you really have to, if nothing else, you just have to really kind of make sure that you're eating enough fat so that you're getting the energy that you need, to kind of sustain you. We want to make sure that you're getting enough calories so that you're not walking around in a fog. And now that I said fog, the only one side effect, and I never experienced this, thank God, is keto fog, or the keto flu. So sometimes as a transition, as you're coming off of anything, and you could think of sugar as any like heroin or cocaine or anything else, it is that strong. You may feel shitty for a few days, but thankfully that goes away quickly. So there's a number of different ways that you can use to to test whether you're in ketosis. Now, early on, you could you can use urine dipsticks, and that works at the beginning, because at the beginning your body doesn't really know what's going on. You haven't become fat adapted, and you haven't really started to work into using your ketones in the most efficient way. So you spill some of those ketones into your urine. Okay, and so those can be picked up on a urine dipstick that you can buy at CVS. Once you get past that early stage and your body becomes more efficient at burning and using those ketones, then they're not going to show up. So it is a little bit harder to test. Now, again, I have type 1 diabetes. I have a ketone meter. It was prescribed to me from my endocrinologist. So Keto Mojo is a great company. They actually provided me with a ton of great resources that are on the Facebook page that you guys will all have access to if you end up doing the 30-day challenge. And so this is a way to test your blood sugar and your ketone levels on this meter. And so it can be important. I don't want you to get fixated on it. It can be important, but it's not 100% necessary. My wife has done the ketogenic diet, and she never tested her ketone levels. The way that she knew that there were some changes is she used to have really bad hot flashes. So one of the things that the ketogenic has been touted to be awesome at is helping to regulate hormones. And so she went from hot, cold, sheets on and off, you know, I don't know what the hell's going on, to basically completely gone. So there's ways that you can do it. And I guarantee you, if you're sticking to the, you know, 70, you know, 75, 25, 5, you know, rule, you'll get into ketosis. You know, for some people it takes a couple days, some people it takes a couple months. I know for me it took longer because I have to artificially give myself insulin, and so I couldn't really, you know, bring those down naturally. So in order to know where you're at with all this, there's kind of a scale. So the optimal range for ketosis, nutritional ketosis, is, you can see here, it's between, you know, kind of 0.5. I guess I could use my laser pointer. It's between kind of this 0.5 to 2. Now, if you're in this range and you have a hard workout, you may bump up into here. And, you know, some of you may have heard of ketoacidosis. So ketosis and ketoacidosis are two totally different things. Ketoacidosis is a dangerous medical condition that happens if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes and your blood sugar gets, you know, is prolonged at a certain level and your body isn't producing enough insulin, or you're not taking enough insulin to get that glucose into your cell. Your body starts to eat itself, and that's bad. But that's nothing you ever have to worry about with the ketogenic diet. So getting into some of the tools and some of the resources that are going to be available to you for the challenge and on the Facebook page is, we're going to go over exercise. I'm not going to go over specifically what I do, although it's definitely up there. I do, you know, 3 days of high intensity at CrossFit 5+, and then I do 3 days of my heart rate training. So if you see this thing ticking down here, that's actually my zone working. I'm on the rower right there. And for me, that's, you know, a great way to kind of keep in that zone 2. Zone 2 is your fat burning zone. So, and it's a good way. So I find with this as a diabetic, and so if it works for a diabetic, it's going to work for anybody, is that high intensity raises my blood sugar. Zone 2 lowers my blood sugar. So if you're a type 2 diabetic and you want to lower your blood sugar naturally, get into zone 2 for 20 or 30 minutes, and, you know, you'll have long-lasting effects, way beyond just the time of the exercise itself. So you're thinking, you know, what the hell am I going to eat on the ketogenic diet? And basically, we want to eat whole foods. We want to eat healthy foods. Now, this doesn't mean going to Whole Foods all the time. There's a lot of healthy options out there. I know that Market Basket is making available a lot of grass-fed, a lot of organic food. So you do want to stay away from that, because we don't want to be, you know, we want to try to avoid putting chemicals in our body through our food as much as possible. You know, we want our grass-fed meats, our free-range chickens, or in our wild-caught fish. And my sister Jonna, who's hopefully watching here tonight, she coined the phrase. She may not be the originator, but she said, we want our happy beef and happy chickens and happy fish that, you know, lived happy lives until we needed them for food. You know, so I put this up there. I got this from Rob Wolf, and I thought it was kind of a powerful way to look at this. Now, I have to say, I've never had elk steak. I don't eat a lot of trout. Trout's not one of my favorite fish. Eggs and bacon are not in there. But if you look at these 4 groups here, you have 7 proteins, 7 vegetables, 5 fats, and 7 herbs and spices. So herbs and spices we haven't talked about. They are a great
My apologies. I couldn't hear
Siri,
what you said.
I'm not talking to you. They are a great source of micronutrients, which are very important. The nice thing about herbs and spices is you can lay on it as much as you want, as much as you can tolerate. So if we take all these combinations together, we multiply that all the way across, there's potentially 1,500 different combinations of meals that you can make just out of those 4 groups. Now, that being said, you're like, well, how am I going to put this all into practice? I mean, I can figure that out, and I can go to the store and buy some of that stuff. Listen, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And, you know, early on, I bought a lot of different things, you know, books and, you know, Rob Wolf's masterclass. I bought the Fit to Fat, and the good thing about you guys, if you do want to do the challenge, I'm going to have it all in there laid out for you. If you just want to say, hey, Kevin, tell me what to eat every freaking day, then I will certainly put those things together for you. It'll be a resource there for everybody. The nice thing is, you know, I needed those things. You know, I use a lot of recipes out of Simply Keto, a great book. And I still go back to those. But once you understand the principles behind it, it becomes very, very simple to follow. So, you know, diet is an important thing. You know, what we eat, what we put into our bodies is, you know, is very important. Sleep can keep us from losing weight, you know, and, you know, we'll go into more about this in the challenge. This isn't the day for sleep. And then movement is the, you know, the third thing in here. And so I look at movement as a couple different categories. So you have your high intensity, you have your zone 2, and then, you know, I'm a chiropractor. So, you know, I get adjusted every week. You know, I get adjusted by Dr. Ryan. My wife's a chiropractor. I'm pretty lucky. And, you know, if we talk about stress and the negative effects, you know, subluxation does the same thing. If you have parts of your body that aren't working, you know, the right way, they aren't moving the right way, not only is exercise going to be more difficult, but it puts stress on your body, undue stress on your body. And your body can't differentiate between different types of stress. All right. Doesn't matter if it's, you know, so we know that high intensity interval training is going to raise your blood sugar. It could be a shitty job. You know, it could be a bad relationship. It could be bad sleep. You know, it could be subluxation. All those things can, you know, raise our insulin levels and put us into that, you know, type 2 zone, that metabolic syndrome zone, you know, which is dangerous. You know, and I'll just say one thing about sleep. There is a genetic variant. And there's a very small percentage of people where they only need less sleep than the average person. You know how many hours of sleep they need? 6. And these are people with a genetic variant. So we need to be getting at least 8 hours of sleep. Like I said, we'll go over a little bit more about that in the challenges. You know, if you're looking for resources, I get a lot of information from Dr. Peter Thier. He's a Canadian medical doctor. He went to school as an engineer, but then he, in med school, he was a surgeon, but now he has a longevity practice. And he, you know, talks about the ketogenic diet a lot. He has a wellness practice in California and one in New York as well. And basically his patients come into him, you know, this is not a service that's covered by insurance. They just say, tell me what I need to do to be healthy. One of the things that he recommends to his patients is that they wear a continuous glucose monitor. He wears a continuous glucose monitor. He does not have type 1 diabetes, but he knows that, you know, these fluctuations in his blood sugar are bad for his health. So whether it's food, activity, lack of sleep, he can track all those things. And he says whether it's keto or just low carb eating, if we eat wholesome, nutrient dense food. So even if you don't want to eat keto, if you eat wholesome, nutrient dense food, you know, ditch all those refined carbs, the bad fats, you exercise and you get some sleep. These are the ingredients. This is what he teaches all of his patients. So I want to talk about the 30-day keto challenge. It starts on May the 4th. So like what I did there. So in the background picture here is just, you know, some of the stuff. So on the upper right there, that's the Facebook group that I put together there. We're going to start the challenge with our BIA testing. So basically we're going to do a wellness score, which includes the in-body, you know, some other, some metabolic syndrome testing, you know, metabolic assessments and some other health tests, you know, waist to hip ratio, blood pressure, all these things. We're going to come up with your wellness score. So we'll do a wellness score at the beginning. We'll do a wellness score at the end. We'll have access at either the North Andover or the Beverly office. Like I said, we'll have meal planners, we'll have tech resources. I'm going to put some videos up there of me kind of going through how I use MyFitnessPal. You know, also on that page, we're going to have some, you know, our daily inspiration. It'll be a place for, you know, all of us to kind of get together and share our triumphs, our struggles, for you guys to be able to reach out to me directly. You know, I will be sending out regular, possibly daily emails with, you know, exercise, with different tips. You know, certainly if you don't want to have me filling up your box, you can certainly say no to that. But, you know, this is all helpful information. It will also be available on the Facebook page as well. So some of the benefits, I went over some of them of joining the challenge. So we have, it's free. You get access to that private Facebook group, which is going to have tons of information to help you make a change in your life, whether you do the keto diet or whether you stick with the keto diet or not. You'll have access to me as your health coach. Like I said, you get that daily inspiration. And, you know, there's strength in numbers when everybody is either struggling together, fighting together, working together, you know, and I trust me, this is not a struggle. But people working together towards a common goal, you know, there's definitely strength in that. There's going to be complete exercise guides. So for some of you newbies out there, you're not really sure what to do, or you want to, you know, learn more about the types of exercises that are going to lower your blood sugar. You know, we'll certainly go over that. Specific meal planners, recipes, and much more. You know, if you're saying, hey, I don't know where to start, like I said, you can get a complete guide from me. I promise I'm not going to leave you out, you know, out in the wind on this one. This is something that I've been doing personally for over 2 years. I've done a ton of research over the last 4 weeks being here at home. And, you know, so that basically wraps up our talk here tonight. I think most of the people on here are patients, but if there's any of you out there watching that want to learn a little bit more about what we do, Dr. Ryan and myself do, you know, as a thank you for being here tonight. Typically our exam is $249, but as, you know, a thank you for being here, that's only going to be $49. So that includes, you know, your first day, all your evaluation, consultation, any testing that needs to be done. If you need x-rays, that's included in there as well. After that, we'll do a report of findings where we go over everything together. You and I will come up with a plan, and you also get your first adjustment included in that. So all you have to do is give our office a call, send us an email. If you just mentioned that you were on the call here with us, then, you know, we'll definitely get you set up for that. You know, either Katie or Evelyn will get you set up. So I'm going to take a look at the chats here. All right, starting from the top. Super duper. Yes, I will be recording this. I think I already said that. Okay, can hear me. Thank you. You can put the picture. Oh. My daughter actually helped me with this earlier, Katie. So I actually did a test run, and my daughter Katie, she's a doctor. She's an osteopath, and she's actually helped my wife do a few presentations as well. And, you know, she, as part of her day now that she's on, you know, she's basically not been working the last couple of months because of the COVID layoff. She's not laid off, but she hasn't been going into the office. And so she basically watches PowerPoint presentations a couple times a day. Oh, geez, Katie, sorry. Let me see if there's anything. Why are you wearing a shirt? Yeah, right. Oh, that's my neighbor, Janine. Jesus. I was going to start off with, hey, I have a nice shirt on. I'm not wearing any pants, but again, I am in my bedroom, so whatever goes. Yeah, and we are going to be, thank you, Ryan. So we are going to be open Monday and Thursday next week. And we're going to be there basically from 8 to 11 and 3 to 5. Is that right? And we're going to do that Monday and Tuesday. We're going to open up some availability too for new patients during this time. And I did have a question. Can you drink alcohol on the ketogenic diet? So alcohol is actually your fourth macro. You know, it's empty calories, so you do have to take those into account. It has, I think it's the same, I think it's the same number, 9 per gram, 9 calories per gram. So you just have to, take that into account. You know, if you are gonna, there's certain alcohols that are certainly okay. You know, vodka, tequila, do that with some lime juice and not lime juice, but well, fresh limes and soda water. Those things are good. Beer is usually a baddie. You know, beer really does tend to, you know, at least for me, it really shoots up my blood sugar. Even if I take that into account, you know, it can really be a toughie. So I did just put a new link on my Linktree. I know a lot of you guys signed up for that for the webinar. So I'm going to make it active tonight. There's a new link on there, which I will email to all of you, that you can sign up for the challenge yourself. Let's see. All right. Okay, I think so. If that's it for all the questions, again, I want to thank all of you guys for being here with me today. Hopefully you got something out of this. You know, whether you choose to sign up for the challenge or not, you know, I'm here for you guys. You know, I want you to feel like you can reach out to me and with any questions you have regarding health, whether it's chiropractic or nutrition. You know, Dr. Ryan and I, this is our passion. Our passion is to help, you know, help the people in our lives and help our chiropractic family be the best people that they can be. So certainly keep an eye out for some more upcoming webinars. This is probably going to be, you know, we don't know when, you know, we're going to wrap up this whole isolation thing. So this may be, you know, a lot of what we do going forward. You know, you guys probably don't mind being in your sweatpants on the couch instead of having to, you know, go into the office for a session. But if you guys have any suggestions or anything like that for stuff you want to hear, then, you know, definitely reach out. So basically anybody can participate in the challenge. This is coming from Dr. Ryan. You know, you can just email me directly and just let me know that you want in. Again, I'll be sending everybody that was signed up for this that I sent a link to. I'm going to use that same list to send out the link to sign up for that as well. So again, this starts on May 4th, but that isn't when. I'm just not going to send you all the stuff on May 4th, because we need to kind of get some prep going here, whether it's, you know, I'm going to give you some tips of cleaning out the house. You know, maybe your family's not going to like you, but cleaning out the bad things, and so that you can get off on the right start. So getting rid of crap, adding good stuff, so that on May 4th we can all get off on the right foot. We will touch base again leading up to that. That way we can make sure everybody's on the right page and that we're getting started off on the right front. So I hope to hear from you guys. Love and appreciate you all, and I can't wait to be back to work next week, next Monday, and we will see you then.